You think communication is about saying the right things. It's not. It's about structuring the reality people are forced to respond to. It's about designing the flow of conversation so that by the time they react, they're already playing inside your frame. Most people fight over content, debate facts, argue opinions. But the real players, they shift the syntax, they rearrange the rhythm, the sequence, the emotional tempo. They don't control the words, they control the experience of the words. In every interaction, someone is leading. Not because they're louder or smarter or even more correct. They're leading because they structured the space first. Their sentences, their pauses, their entry points. They sculpted reality before anyone else realized it was being shaped. This video is about that power. Psychological syntax, the unseen mechanism that decides who sets the frame and who has to live inside it. By the end, you won't just speak better. You'll engineer conversations like weapons. Let's begin. Linguistic frame control initiated. Part 1. What is psychological syntax? Syntax isn't just grammar. It isn't just sentence structure. It's psychological architecture. It's the sequence, the rhythm, the emotional tempo that shapes how a message is absorbed before it's even processed. Psychological syntax is the invisible hand that builds or breaks frames. It's not what you say, it's how you layer it, how you pace it, how you deliver it. You don't just communicate information, you structure perception. Every conversation is an invisible negotiation. Who's leading? Who's reacting? Whose reality is dominating the space? Syntax decides that before facts, before logic, before even awareness. The person who controls the syntax controls the subconscious flow of the entire interaction. It's why two people can say the same thing, and one sounds weak, apologetic, dismissible, while the other sounds unshakable, inevitable, commanding. It's not content, it's construction. Psychological syntax is about positioning your ideas as default truths, embedding emotional authority without escalation, framing responses so that disagreement feels disruptive to them, not you. It's not about being right, it's about making right. The only structure they feel safe agreeing with. You master syntax. You master silent dominance. You engineer space itself. Before anyone realizes, they're already speaking inside your frame. Part 2. How frame is embedded in syntax, not content. You can say the truth and still lose the frame. You can be right and still come across as reactive, apologetic, uncertain, because communication isn't about who knows more. It's about who structures reality faster. Frame is not embedded in the facts you present. Frame is embedded in the order, in the pacing, in the emotional coding of your syntax. Example, can I be honest with you? Here's how I see it. Both are invitations to share truth, but one asks for permission. One assumes authority. Syntax decides the psychological position before the message is even heard. The frame is set before logic gets a chance to argue. Another example, maybe I'm wrong, but here's what you're overlooking. Same point, opposite power dynamics. One surrenders frame. Before speaking, the other frames disagreement. As a correction, they must adapt to. The syntax you use dictates whether you are defending your truth or they are adjusting to it. Frame is established, not when you finish your point, but how you open, how you sequence, how you punctuate emotional space. When you control syntax, you soften resistance before it can form. You embed dominance without escalation. You create momentum they feel but can't trace. They don't just hear your words, they move inside the experience you architected. And by the time they react, they're already operating inside your version of reality. Part 3. Signs you're losing frame. Because of weak syntax, you don't lose frame. When your facts are wrong, you lose frame. When your syntax betrays insecurity, here's how it happens. You ask for permission before sharing truth. Can I be honest? Is it okay if I say something? The moment you seek permission, you broadcast submission. You signal, I know my truth is negotiable. And now, the frame isn't your message. It's their emotional comfort. You disclaim your authority before you speak. I might be wrong, but just my opinion, though. You soften yourself. Before you even engage, you grant them higher ground. Before the conversation even begins, and once you yield, the structural advantage, you can't get it back by arguing harder. You fill silence to avoid pressure. When a pause hangs in the air, you rush to fill it. You explain, you justify, you soften, because silence feels heavy, and heaviness makes you nervous. But real frame control. Let silence do the work. When you fill it, you surrender control to your own discomfort. You use apologetic syntax unconsciously. Even without saying sorry, your words leak subtext. Over-explaining, over-qualifying, softening statements into suggestions. You signal, please accept me. Instead of, this is the frame, you can step into it or be left behind. You reframe yourself before they even push back. You preempt objections. By over-explaining your motives, you try to sound fair, balanced, reasonable. But what they hear is, you're already negotiating your truth. You're already doubting your position. And once that's felt, you've already lost. These are not random habits. They are structural leaks, proof that you're building syntax for survival, not for dominance, not for control, not for sovereignty. And until you restructure the way you speak, you'll keep negotiating from the passenger seat, even when your ideas are right, even when your knowledge is deep. Because syntax frames the battlefield before the first blow is even struck. Part 4. How to rearrange sentences to flip frame instantly. You don't flip frame by speaking louder or faster or trying harder to prove your point. You flip frame by rearranging the structure of your language to rewire the flow of power. Here's how. 1. Open with ownership, not permission. Don't preface. Don't apologize. Don't soften. Lead with clarity. Instead of, can I say something? Say, here's what I'm seeing. Instead of, maybe it's just me, but say, this is the reality I'm operating from. You don't enter asking to exist. You enter framing your existence as inevitable. 2. Prioritize statements over questions. Questions create room for resistance. Statements create ground for dominance. Instead of, would you agree that? Say, what's clear is. Instead of, is it possible that? Say, Here's the angle we haven't discussed. You're not inviting negotiation, you're establishing architecture. Third sequence, certainty before vulnerability. If you must show humility, do it after you've anchored your frame, not before. Example. Wrong. I might be wrong, but here's my thought. Right. From what I've studied, here's what's evident. There's always room to refine further. Anchor first. Invite expansion second. 4. Insert strategic pauses. After keyframes. When you say something heavy, stop. Let it hang. Let the tension settle. Let them react internally. Rushing dilutes power. Pausing forces integration. Example. This isn't just about perception, it's about leverage. Pause. Hold eye contact. Let it burn. 5. Collapse. Explanations into commands. Trim fat. Cut preambles. Drop justifications. Move from, I was thinking it might be a good idea if we, to, the move here is simple. Here's what it is. Command frames don't sound louder. They sound simpler, cleaner, more inevitable. Every sentence you say is a chance to either surrender ground or structure the space. When you control syntax, you don't just win arguments, you engineer realities that people have to adjust to before they even realize. The shift happened. Part 5. Tactical syntax techniques. You must practice. Frame control isn't about big words, it's about how you move through language with precision and inevitability. Here are the tactical syntax techniques you must drill into instinct. First, opening dominance. Always start from a place of quiet authority. Wrong. Can I share a thought? Right. Here's what stands out immediately. Frame yourself as the one bringing clarity, not asking to participate. 2. Unfinished lead-ins. Start a thread, but don't reveal everything immediately. Example, there's a bigger dynamic happening here, but most people miss it. Pause. Let them lean in. Control curiosity. Pull attention toward your center of gravity. 3. Reframing mid-conversation. When they make a point, don't just respond. Reframe. Example. Them. I think it's more complicated than that. You. Complexity usually hides simplicity we're avoiding. Let's clear it. You reposition their contribution inside your frame without rejecting it, without agreeing, just absorbing and re-steering. 4. Controlling the last word. End exchanges with a decisive closure statement. Example. We'll move forward from there. It's already in motion. That aligns with the direction we're taking. The last word lingers. The last frame stabilizes. Always leave your linguistic fingerprint on the exit point. 5. Punctuating silence with certainty. After a strong statement, resist the temptation to fill the space. Drop the line. Pause. Hold. Example. Control the narrative or live inside someone else's. Silence. Let it echo. Silence after strength compounds impact. It forces digestion. It forces recalibration. Master these techniques, not mechanically, not theatrically, but through repetition, until your very syntax breathes control without trying. Because real frame dominance isn't felt in your volume, it's felt in the architecture of every word you let land. Part 6. Language is power. Syntax is the steering wheel. Words are weapons, but syntax is the steering wheel. It doesn't just aim meaning, it structures movement. It doesn't just transmit thought, it guides perception. Every conversation you enter, you're either driving reality or reacting inside someone else's design, not because of what you said, not because of how much you know, because of how you built the flow. Syntax isn't decoration, it's infrastructure. The one who commands syntax shapes frames before facts are debated, positions truth as inevitability, not persuasion, moves people emotionally. Before they realize they're moving, you don't win by speaking louder. You win by making them navigate the world. You structured with every pause, every sequence, every lead-in. Language is power. But syntax is precision. Syntax is psychological engineering. Syntax is silent conquest. And once you master it, you don't chase influence. You become the gravity everything else organizes around. CTA. For the next 72 hours, stop speaking reactively. Start structuring reality. Control your openings. Control your lead-ins. Control your closures. Speak not to inform, but to frame. Because the one who steers syntax, steers perception, steers power, steers worlds. Psychological syntax, complete.